tear down video. I managed through the 4-degree morning. I'll be honest, it's not quite the same as like 4 degrees in Canada, because like the ground here is warm and everything, like right, like warm. As soon as the sun came out, it warmed up nicely. I bet you it's going to be a little cold on the motorcycle for a little bit, but nothing tragic. But yeah, if I didn't have that comforter, I'd be freezing my ass. Everybody's going somewhere on the bus. What's happening? Something is happening. Down to St. Augustine. I wanted to check out that town, and on the way here it was raining and stuff, so I didn't have time to stop. I said on the way back I have to stop for just for a day, so I'm going there now. It's about a 3-4 hour drive. Then I'm going to sleep over there in Augustine, so I can check out the town a little bit in the afternoon and the evening. I'll see what I managed to squeeze in one day. Get something covered. And then I'm slowly trying to think of my way back, and I would kind of like to see the Clarksdale again, so I have to go through Clarksdale. But I gotta see how far out of the way and what the weather is like there. Because I don't think that's a country where you want to camp really. In Mississippi there by the Delta, but some kind of alligator or something is gonna get me. Maybe, I don't know, but the state parks are pretty nice. State park in Louisiana was kick ass. There's rangers around and stuff. But okay, this was quite an experience. Being camping in 4-degree weather, not the best, but okay. So my tip, if you get caught in a really cold weather, get yourself one of those, like I paid $18 for a comforter, and I freaking threw it under my sleeping bag and over my sleeping bag and over my head, and I slept like a baby. I was actually like cozily warm, just nice. I wasn't freezing at all. Okay, I gotta focus on this shoot now. I'm almost there. But I'm pretty beat the count. I think I will put my chaps on today, the first time since I came down south. I just gotta do it, otherwise I'm gonna freeze. And then I did really good. There was a storm, there was a big cool down, and the only thing wet I got was
Hello my friendly friendlers. So my adventures in Georgia were coming to an end. I enjoyed exploring Tybee Island and Savannah. It was quite a lot of fun. As you could see, I packed up my bike nice and neatly and tightly. I had to get an extra comforter for the cold 4-degree night. And actually that comforter was pretty nice. My camping was super cozy. And so yeah, one last drive through those prairies from the Tybee Island. I don't know what they're called actually, like some kind of where the river goes to the ocean. It's some sort of a delta maybe, I don't know. And one last drive through Savannah after. Savannah left a lasting impression on me, I gotta say. I'll never forget these streets. And the live oak trees, Spanish moss, old colonial houses, and everything was just like the nature was waking up, everything was blooming. It was really pretty. But Florida was calling me. Open highway around the corner, and another, I don't know, it was quite a long way I had to do. Oh no, not really, I'm sorry, my mistake. I went from Tybee Island on the way to Georgia when I was running from the rain. I was gonna go see, there's this one of the oldest towns in the East Coast. It's called St. Augustine. And I was gonna go see it on the way up north, but it was raining and I was running from the rain and all that stuff, and I didn't have time. So I said, you know what, since I had a really cold night and I wanted to like reset a little after like 5 days, 5 nights of camping there in Tybee Island. So I got a cheap motel in St. Augustine and spent the night there. So that was some, I don't know, 300 miles away. That's 500 kilometers. We can do that fairly fast. And bam, there I am.
In 600 feet, keep right to continue on A1 a scenic and historic coastal byway, San Marcos Avenue. Keep right to continue on A1 a scenic and historic coastal byway.
So St. Augustine, Florida was founded in 1565 by Spanish explorer Pedro Mendez de Aviles. St. Augustine is considered the oldest continuously inhabited European established city in what is now United States. Walking through the old streets or riding through them, it's easy to see the Spanish influence. I mean, not here on the main road, but once you walk into the old town. There's stone buildings, narrow lanes, old churches, and centuries of history. It's very different than any other place in North America. One of the most famous stories connected to St. Augustine is the legend of Fountain of Youth. According to popular tradition, Juan Ponce de Leon came to Florida searching for the magical spring whose waters would restore youth and vitality. Historians still debate how much truth there is to the story, but the legend became part of Florida folklore and remains one of St. Augustine's biggest attractions. Overlooking the city is the massive Castillo de San Marcos, a stone fortress that was built by the Spanish in late 1600s, constructed from coquina, a unique shellstone found along Florida's coast. The fort survived attacks from pirates, British forces, and the passage of time itself. Today it stands as a reminder of the centuries of struggle between European powers for control of the New World. But for me, it wasn't really about conquering empires or finding eternal youth. It was another stop on my long motorcycle journey through the American South. A chance to wander old streets, soak up some history, and watch the sunset over the oldest cities in North America. And yeah, the Spanish were here centuries before Florida became the tourist destination we know today. And like any place that's been around that long, it's got its share of legends.
I found my castle, Castillo de San Marcos.
So the centerpiece of St. Augustine is this Castillo de San Marcos. Construction began in 1672 when Florida was part of the Spanish Empire. The Spanish had already lost several wooden forts to attacks and fires, so this time they decided to build something that would last. What makes this fortress unique is the material it's built from. Instead of ordinary stone, the walls are made of coquina, a rock formed from millions of compressed seashells. Surprisingly, this made the fort stronger than many stone fortresses of the era. Cannonballs often sank into the soft walls instead of shattering them. Over the centuries, Castillo de San Marcos witnessed attacks by pirates, British invasions, Spanish soldiers, American troops, and eventually became part of the United States. Despite all of that, the fort was never taken by force in battle. Every change of ownership happened through treaties and political agreements rather than military conquest. And yeah, 400 years ago, this coastline was edge of a vast empire. Ships arrived carrying soldiers, settlers, supplies, and news from all across Atlantic. Whoever controlled this harbor controlled one of the Spain's most important footholds in North America. And yeah, you look at these walls and you think they're almost 400 years old. Long before motorcycles, highways, or even United States existed. People stood watch from these same ramparts, scanning the horizon for sails that might bring trade, war, or trouble. And then, yeah, as the sunset was approaching, I was on the lookout for a drone spot. And with my drone app, I found one right on the edge of town. I drove all the way to the... Honestly, I don't know, I think it was north side or something. Probably the north side. And I drove all the way to the edge and I got a nice shot of those marshes there and stuff. I found this drone was so cool. My eye in the sky. You know, I got much more out of this road trip because of it. So yeah, earlier in the day I've been walking through the streets of St. Augustine, exploring old forts, Spanish architecture and stories that reach back nearly 5 centuries. But as the sun began to set, I wanted to see the city from a different perspective. From up there, it's easier to understand why people choose this place. Long before there were roads, hotels, motorcycles, even the city itself, these waterways were the lifeline of the region. The rivers, the marshes, and protected harbor provided food, transportation, and access to the Atlantic Ocean. In 1565, Spanish explorer Pedro Mendez de Aviles, I'm sorry, I butchered the name, I know. I'm not too good with reading Spanish or French and stuff like that. But anyway, so our friendly Pedro Menendez landed near these shores and founded St. Augustine. More than 460 years later, it remains the oldest continuously occupied European established settlement in what is now United States. And so this was, I believe, Mission Nombre de Dios, one of the most important historic sites in the city. It was near this area that the first Spanish settlers came ashore, bringing with them their faith, culture, ambitions, and dreams of building a new life in an unfamiliar world. Standing on the ground, it's easy to focus on monuments, churches, fortresses, and from the air, the landscape tells an even different and a bigger story. The winding marshes below aren't just beautiful scenery. They shaped everything that happened here. These tidal channels were once the highway of the New World, carrying explorers, traders, soldiers, and settlers through an environment that was both welcoming and unforgiving. Looking out across the water, it's hard not to think about how many people have arrived on these shores searching for something. Some came for wealth, some for adventure, some for faith. Others were simply looking for a fresh start. I suppose that's part of the reason travel appeals to me so much. Every place has its own story, but every traveler is carrying one too. One thing this trip taught me that I'm definitely not a big city guy. Places like St. Augustine feel much more my speed. History, ocean air, old buildings, and enough room to slow down for a moment and appreciate where you are. As the evening light faded over the marshes and Matanzas Bay, I found myself thinking less about forts and explorers and more about the journey itself. Sometimes you're looking at a place and sometimes you're looking at yourself. Tomorrow I'll be back on the road again. That's the blessing and the curse of the motorcycle travel. No matter how much you like the place, eventually you'll have to pack up, fire up the bike, and head towards the next horizon. For one evening though, St. Augustine was a pretty good place to watch the sun go down.
The colors in the sky are out of this world. And I just got my drone up and everything. I missed have this light, but okay, like I'm gonna get it on the Insta, hopefully.
Definitely one of the nicest sunsets I had. One of the nicest. The sunsets were amazing, I don't know, like. It makes me want to move down south, man, so bad. I can't explain. So I slowly headed back towards St. Augustine. I was gonna roam around, and I did. I roamed around St. Augustine for quite a while. And then at some point I head back to the motel. And the next morning I had to ride all the way across back to the Gulf side, almost to Alabama.
At the next stop sign, turn right. Go past this light and use the middle lane to take a slight left onto the one in scenic and historic coastal byway, Avenue de Miranda.
You know, growing up, we would always go to Croatian seaside from Slovenia. And this place reminded me a lot of Croatia for some reason. Maybe because of the old Spanish architecture, and we have the Roman architecture. It's not the same, but I mean, it's all stone. And in Croatia, it's all marble. Croatia is fantastic. If you ever have a chance to go check it out. St. Augustine was full of teenagers partying.
The party garden. You know what? Maybe I'm just gonna go over there. Maybe I'm just going straight for the party. visit. I have to come here again. It's a lot to explore, but it's so full of like drunk teenagers from their March break. Like, fuck, I remember those days, but like, we would like go to some camping somewhere away from people. I don't know. Maybe we will. The seaside in Slovenia is the same in the summer. Like, everybody's there. Young people getting drunk, partying. It's a nice. It's very nice to party by the sea, I gotta say. Even if you don't do anything dramatic, you can just walk around a little bit. Grab a new SSD disk. I filled up my first 2 terabytes with all the footage and bullshit. Hopefully there's something nice. Hopefully it was worthwhile. Spending almost $200 for another 2 terabytes. It's kind of as an investment. If I manage to make something out of this trip, this would potentially sponsor some of my trips in the future. Doing everything I can pretty much. I'm trying every day. I try to see something cool. Sometimes I'm just like traveling from one place to another. Every day, and then I
Yep, slowly made it back towards the Gulf. There's my old friend, the fog. Gulf fog. I'll never forget all the fog I've seen there. Oh my god, what a fog. And then the familiar I-10 across Florida. The lady said continue on I-10 for 260 miles. It's almost 500 kilometers. Fuck. No problemo. We'll put it in high gear. And go with the traffic 80 miles an hour. So I was gonna meet there a friend in Pensacola and then spend the day there and then head back up towards Clarksdale. And then it turned out on the day there I got to go see Alabama also.
Just a quick update. I started a trip today back towards slowly towards Canada, because I still have a few places I want to see on the way. And I went to Pensacola and I have a friend here, and look what came to the room for me. This is insane. A full-on Gulf Coast boil. Everything in there. Even an egg. There's eggs, potatoes, sausage, shrimp, crab, corn. The proper Gulf Coast boil. It's just too much. I don't know. I might have to move here.
Yep, so after my friend fed me fantastically well in Pensacola, the next day it was kind of cold, so we just went with the car to see Fort Morgan in Alabama, which is just a little bit down the Gulf. So the fort, I kind of wanted to visit this place before when I was around, and I wanted to visit more places in Alabama, but I somehow didn't really get to stop there. But yeah, this was a nice addition and a nice goodbye. So the Fort Morgan was built between 1819 and 1834. Fort Morgan guards the entrance to Mobile Bay and has witnessed nearly 2 centuries of American history. The fort played an important role during the Civil War, most famously during the Battle of Mobile Bay, where Admiral David Farragut supposedly uttered the famous words, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." From the air, the fort almost looks peaceful today, surrounded by white sand, blue water, and the endless horizon of the Gulf of Mexico. It's hard to imagine the battles that once unfolded here. What struck me the most wasn't the fort itself, though it was pretty cool, but the landscape. Check out that. The Gulf Coast has a character all of its own. It's these white beaches, warm water, salt air, and a piece of life that feels pretty chill to me. Over the weeks, I spent traveling through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. And I found myself becoming more attracted to this coastline than I really expected. Maybe it's the climate, maybe it's the music, maybe it's the food, maybe it's the people, or maybe it's simply the feeling that life doesn't have to be quite so complicated. Standing on the beach at Fort Morgan, looking out towards the Gulf, I realized this was likely the last time I'd see the waters on the strip, at least for now. Out on the horizon, the oil platforms stood like tiny islands against the sky, silent reminders that the Gulf has always been a working coast as much as a vacation destination. Fishing boats, cargo ships, shrimpers, oil rigs, generations of people making a living from the sea. And then, as if the Gulf wanted to send me off properly, I think I even caught a small group of dolphins. They came to say goodbye. I've seen them a couple times before, but not on this trip. There's something magical about these little creatures. They come and go. They didn't really care about me. Scanning the waters with the drone, trying to find them. But yeah, moments like that stay with you because they aren't planned. They don't care about schedules, maps, travel itineraries. They just happen. When I left Ontario a few weeks earlier, I wasn't really looking for anything specific. I just wanted to point the bikes out and see what's waiting down the road. What I found was a collection of places, people, conversations, sunsets, beaches, music, and memories that will probably stay with me for a very long time. The Gulf Coast surprised me. It wasn't the place I simply passed through. It became one of the highlights of the entire journey. Yep, with those waves rolling onto the beach, it felt less like saying goodbye and more like saying, see you later. Ah, there's my little dolphin buddies. I don't think the Gulf Coast is completely finished with me yet. Thanks for sticking around for another episode.